Yeah, what's going on? This is the Cooking with Big A show, and I'm glad to see you. Today we doing chicken and ribs, and I'm gonna do a honey glaze. I'm gonna show you how I make the honey glaze. And remember, you can use this honey glaze not just to glaze your meat, right? And add that element of flavor. But you use it as a dipping sauce. I mean, you can put it over chicken. There's just so many things you can do with it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now look at there, right? Went back, hit the tops and all that with that yardbird. Boom, then we come up over here. That's them two long racks of ribs. We about to put it on the smoker and let it do what it do. What's going on, people? This is today's tips and tidbits. So a lot of what I call smoking, barbecuing, aficionados, right? I just made this word talk about wood chips and soaking of the wood chips. Now, if you watch my previous episode, there is a technique to it. My tip and tidbit for today is when I used to use a traditional grill, right? A regular grill, because the charcoal was less, how do I say, controllable. You had to really monitor and control the briskets as they cooked, and you couldn't really control the heat. That's when I soaked the wood chips because I wanted it to take time before it started smoking. But now that I use an electric smoker, you can control the heat a lot more. Therefore, I use a dry chip. That way, when it gets to that certain temperature, it's going to start smoking. And here's the last tip. You don't want to over chip. Now, what do I mean by that? Imagine a fire and you put more wood on the fire, it's going to create more smoke, right? Once you get that initial smoke, if you add additional smoking chips, all you're really going to do is create like this, think about the soot inside of a chimney, that black kind of soot, right? You run the risk of over smoking your meat. So once you get that initial smoke, trust me, the flavor is going to be up in there. So don't over smoke. Think about if you're using a regular grill or not, if you need to soak your wood chips. And lastly, if you're using an electric smoker, you just put it in there one time. You sit it there right now. I'm sitting it there. I'm watching the Alabama versus Texas A&M game. I'm chilling. About 3.5 hours from now, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to wrap that meat tight. And then I'm going to chill again for another couple of hours. And then we going to eat. So today's tips and tidbits, wood chips. Now we about to get all up into this honey glaze. So this right here is a cup of brown sugar. Now we make it a large portion, which you can save and use this for your dipping sauce, right? I'm gonna come over here and this is a 1/3 cup of honey. Now some people have asked me, if I want to make it thicker, would I add more honey, right? If I want to make less, would I add less brown sugar, less honey? Yes. Use your ingredients proportion to what you're going to make. Now, we are glazing 2 racks of ribs with this here. So I'm going to make a decent portion, and whatever kind of left over, I'm going to keep as a leftover. Now, the next thing we're going to do is add our orange juice, right? I got the no pulp orange juice here, and this is like a bat flavor. So it does call, let me put the camera here, for 1 cup of fresh orange juice. Like that right there, right? So I'm gonna take this orange juice and I'm gonna add it again. A little less orange juice if you want it thicker, right? I want it nice and soupy, so I'm gonna add that. Now the last ingredient, some people will put cinnamon. I like to use what is called a pinch of nutmeg, just very, very little bit because it's gonna add a little earthiness to it. Not like basil in that, but like an after backdrop. Now, not too heavy, because nutmeg can overpower it. So I'm gonna take it about. That's a little pinch of the nutmeg. Then, to simplify it, we just take it over here to the stove, and we gonna let that come to a boil. These ribs, I wish we had smell-o-vision. So again, the longer you cook that down, you see how more copious that's gotten? Now, when I first, like I said, when you let that honey glaze kind of sit there, right? Look at it. Now I'm sticking my finger up in it, right? It's going to solidify and become like a nice dipping sauce up in there that you can use now, use later. put it on things and stuff. It tastes wonderful. So as you can see on this side, that was that left side. This is the spritzed chicken. And notice the skin on it, right? Notice the skin. It's tender, but it's biteable. Now over here, we have what I call the wrapped. That was that wrapped chicken. Now look at that. That skin is soft, right? All the way through. And then of course, I'm gonna hit y'all before we get all into it with these wrapped ribs. Remember them honey glaze on them ribs? Look at that right there. That's that honey glazed ribs. And as always, I got to give y'all the tender test. So I'm just gonna take a random spot, right through them ribs. That's called the tender test. Right through them ribs. So we about to eat like kings, y'all.